Peace be upon you all. I hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about Michael Jackson from a psychological perspective. This is not about judging him as a good or bad person, but about understanding how childhood experiences may have shaped his personality and many of the choices he made throughout his life. According to this perspective, Michael grew up with a very harsh and controlling father, Joseph Jackson. His father was strict, demanding, and heavily involved in every aspect of his children's careers. Michael, like many children in similar situations, desperately wanted love, approval, and emotional support from his father, but often felt criticized and rejected instead. The idea presented here is that Michael spent much of his life trying not to become like his father. Sometimes, when a child experiences rejection or emotional pain from a parent, they grow up defining themselves by becoming the complete opposite of that parent. This may explain why Michael became extremely perfectionistic. He constantly pushed himself to perform better, sing better, dance better, and present himself in the most perfect way possible. On the surface, perfectionism can look like ambition and discipline. But psychologically, it can also come from fear. The fear of criticism, rejection, and making mistakes. There are also claims that Michael was deeply insecure about his appearance. His father reportedly made negative comments about the way he looked, especially regarding his nose and facial features. Because of this, Michael may have developed a strong desire to continuously improve or change his appearance, believing that being perfect would finally make him accepted. Another important point is Michael's relationship with his family. Even though he loved his brothers, there seemed to be a strong desire to become independent and separate himself from the family system that caused him so much pain. This could explain why he eventually pursued a solo career and removed his father from managing his career. It was his way of taking control of his own life. The speaker also believes that Michael's fascination with childhood, amusement parks, toys, and fantasy worlds came from a deep desire to reclaim the childhood he never truly experienced. From a young age, Michael was working, performing, and carrying responsibilities that most children never have to deal with. As a result, he may have tried to create the childhood that he felt had been taken away from him. This is why he surrounded himself with toys, games, animals, and places like Neverland. In his mind, he may have still been trying to heal the wounded child inside of him. The speaker also discusses Michael's relationship with his mother. Unlike his father, his mother is described as gentle and loving, but unable to protect him from the harsh environment created by his father. Because of this, Michael may have developed feelings of emotional abandonment. According to this theory, when children feel emotionally abandoned, they often escape into fantasy and imagination. They may become deeply attached to stories, cartoons, magical worlds, and childlike experiences, because those things provide a sense of comfort and safety. This perspective argues that Michael's soft way of speaking and gentle personality were partly influenced by his identification with his mother's softer nature, rather than his father's harsh masculinity. In other words, he may have unconsciously rejected many traits that reminded him of his father. The speaker repeatedly emphasizes that Michael was trying to become everything his father was not. His father was strict, controlling, and emotionally distant, while Michael wanted to be caring, gentle, playful, and protective of children. However, the speaker also argues that this created certain problems. Since Michael internally still felt like a child himself, he may not have fully understood how certain behaviors could be perceived by other people. For example, the speaker suggests that Michael's closeness with children and his childlike behavior came from innocence and an attempt to heal his own inner child. However, because society views these behaviors differently, They eventually became the source of major accusations and controversies. Another major point discussed is loneliness. Despite being one of the most famous people in the world, Michael often spoke about feeling isolated and misunderstood. Fame, wealth, and success did not remove his emotional pain. The speaker argues that unresolved childhood wounds can remain with a person for their entire life, regardless of how successful they become. A person can have money, fame, admiration, and everything they once dreamed of, yet still feel empty inside if they never heal emotionally. The speaker also believes that Michael struggled to trust people. When children experience rejection or abandonment early in life, they often develop difficulties forming healthy relationships later.